first question, Ms. Kirkyan first. It is, what do you think the voters are looking for in an elected official? Please tell us about the specific qualifications that you have that make you that person.
Good evening, everyone. First and foremost, I thank the League of Women Voters for hosting this debate. I thank you, Chris, for participating. And most importantly, I thank you, the voters who are here tonight to hear me out. For the past few months, I've been coming to your doors. I've been meeting you and listening to your concerns, to your cries, and your frustrations. And if you were not home when you came home, I had my palm card there on your door waiting for you to learn more about me. And so this evening, what are my qualifications? Well, it's a dream that I had since I was a little girl, and I am happy that now in my adult age, I am here to live this experience here that I am so blessed. And I greet you all in the name of my Lord Jesus Christ this evening. And to that aspect, part of my qualifications, well, before I decided to run for this office tonight, it has to do with, during my college years, I've participated in many debate clubs, and through my adult age, I've joined so many outreach events, serving the community, whether it was through church or something that I put together myself. And also I've worked with children, and I enjoy mentoring them. And so, and this is part of the things that I love to do, and I love to be a part of my community, to participate and to be a responsible citizen in my community. And some of those things, and also my passion to be a public servant, is some of the things, some of the passion that has compelled me through the years to be here tonight.
Thank you. Mr. Perron.
Thank you very much. And I do want to thank the League of Women Voters and Darlene as well. I think that this has been the first debate that we got to see was certainly very interesting. It covered a lot of the waterfront, so I'm certainly looking forward to questions coming in later on from that as well. I think that, you know, my story is very simple. I mean, I was raised by a single mother. She instilled in me a love of public service and a love of getting involved in my community. I don't feel that our state, I don't feel that our state has done enough in some areas, but overall, I think one of the things that drives me is making sure that our state is doing everything it can to be the most competitive state in the country. I think we are, there are missed opportunities, but I'm also very dogged, very determined to get things done that are relevant. I'll be talking more about those things as the debate goes on. The fact of the matter is, we could be doing better, and I'm committed to making that. So, thank you very much.
Okay. Any rebuttal? Anything further? This question will go to Mr. Perron first. What, if elected, could you do to spur economic development in Connecticut?
Well, I think there are several things that we've done already. As chair of the Commerce Committee, we've instituted the Small Business Express program. It's essentially created about 5,000 jobs among roughly 1,100 companies. The fact of the matter is, though, that we have areas where we're doing very well in. We're doing well in aerospace. I think that making sure that Sikorsky didn't leave was critical. Yet at the same time, Electric Boat, while important, they have a need for 5,000 jobs. They're bringing jobs in from Rhode Island. The fact of the matter is, we need to be doing a lot more to make sure that our community colleges are turning out the kind of workers that Electric Boat needs, and to keep those jobs in the state of Connecticut. And I think that that's been another area. Certainly, our our capacity for renewables is something that we're proud of with Green Bank. And these are initiatives that are investing in renewable energy, and it is incumbent on us to try to leverage our strengths where possible. So I think that we're competing with 49 other states, and we're also competing internationally. So we also, while we look at, what's happening in Massachusetts and New York and other states near us, we have to understand that, if we're going to make sure, for example, our bioscience sector, which has been doing very well, that has to continue. The way that continues is you do not cut into R&D funding. You do not cut into basically the tax programs that encourage consistent growth in these industries over time. And I think so a consistent tax policy is also an area that we have to be vigilant about. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Perpignan?
Please repeat the question again.
Yes. If elected, what would you do to spur economic development in Connecticut?
Well, first and foremost, I would like everyone to know that there is no way that if I am elected, I will be voting on record high taxes as my opponent has. And what I would do to spur is jobs. Jobs by far is one of the most important things that we can do to spur economic development within the state. We have our retirees leaving out of here in record numbers, and we have our young college graduates who are leaving at a rate of 7% out of the state. And I've heard Chris touch upon the Sikorsky deal. Well, you know what? That's what we call corporate welfare. While I am pleased that Sikorsky will be remaining here in Connecticut, however, I hate the concept of cherry picking. Why do we have to live in one of the most richest states, but yet we are so poor? Because we cannot afford to live the lifestyle that we need to live. And I'm not talking about a flashy lifestyle. I'm talking about just getting jobs, being able to pay for our kids' colleges, and being able to afford a $1,200 rent. And we're finding that throughout the state, and we're finding that out throughout the city here in Norwalk, that people are having a hard time to live here. And that's why they are living out in record numbers. And so we need to stop choosing losers and winners, and we need to make Connecticut a business-friendly state. And it's not a joke when you are reading the surveys when they say that Connecticut is one of the worst states to start a business, because the small businesses are struggling. The mid-class businesses are struggling, but there are nobody here running to save them, only the major corporation, and we need to level that playing field. We need to create manufacturing jobs and construction jobs that are sustainable jobs.
Okay, I'm afraid that it's time. Any rebuttal, Mr. Perron?
Yeah, you bet. Basically, the issue with Sikorsky is very simple. Over the next 14, 15, 16 years, the Sikorsky is, through the development of the King Stallion helicopter, is looking to put about $69 billion into our state's economy. If we do not hang on to assets like this, that are basically one of the assets that has helped build this state, I think it's tantamount to legislative malpractice if we don't hang on to this. This is jobs, this is revenue, this is who we are as a state, and that's my rebuttal.
Time. Anything further?
Yes, very quickly. Yes, I do agree with you that we... Do I get another startup? All right. Yes, I do agree with you that we do need jobs such as Sikorsky, because you know what? When these corporations are in our state, it's not only good for their workers, but it's good for the little store around the corner, the little delis, the little dry cleaners around the corner. However, we need to make it available for new entrepreneurs to be able to start businesses. And I, for one, was a business owner within the city here in Norwalk. My husband and I, we own several dry cleaners, but because of tough regulations and mandate, we were forced to close our doors, and it's unacceptable. We have to make things better.
This is a follow-up question. It will go to Ms. Perpignan first. What are your specific plans for helping start-up businesses in Connecticut?
Well, you know what? To start up small businesses within the state, first of all, we have to start by cutting the red tapes and streamlining for the permitting licenses that are causing businesses, that are taking businesses too long to start up, and that's where we're going to have to start. by cutting. There are too many mandates within the state Connecticut. And before we can implement anything else, we have to start cutting back. Why does it have to take so many licenses that cost so many businesses so much money? They just cannot survive that way. And there has to be something. We already have some great businesses in Connecticut. However, they're not able to hire new people. And the new entrepreneurs like college graduates such as myself who aspire to open new businesses, who aspire to live here within Connecticut. But unfortunately, the state is so expensive, high taxes. We need to start lowering our taxes and making it affordable for all businesses. And that's how new businesses with lowering taxes, and that's how they'll be able to aspire and look forward to start businesses.
Mr. Perrone?
Yes, very quickly, one of the things that I'm proud of in the past session was working with Senator Scott Franz, who's a Republican, reaching across the aisle on the Entrepreneurs Learners Permit Program, which would allow startup businesses to be reimbursed by the state up to $1,500 for fees and other expenses related to the startup of a business. I agree that the regulations that we have are onerous. I agree that we are not that we have work to do on getting rid of the things that have held back our entrepreneurs. But at the end of the day, I mean, the year's not even over, and the state of Connecticut has already created 18,000 businesses. So clearly there is something going on in the state of Connecticut in terms of momentum. We just have to have enough sense to make sure that we're doing everything we can to encourage these companies, to encourage their growth, and support them. Thank you.
Rebuttal?
Yes, well, you know what, I've heard it before, and it's being said for a long time that we are making progress, but it's small progress. Connecticut has the slowest GDP, and we are not able to compete with our neighboring state. So there is a problem with that. And what are we going to do? You've mentioned that, yes, you did give money to you did vote on a program to give small businesses money. But guess what? When the other corporations are being negotiated with coming here to start up jobs, we're not recruiting our own talents. The talents are being recruited elsewhere, and that is unacceptable.
Any rebuttal?
Yes, thank you. One of the things that I'm excited about is an initiative we'd like to do that would waive income tax for new college graduates. We are suffering a brain drain. Our college graduates are leaving. Leaving for a lot of reasons. But the fact is, one of them is the cost of living. The other is the cost of housing. I think that we are. This is an opportunity for us to try to hang on to our talent. And we are also. I'll continue later. Thank you.
Okay. This one goes to Mr. Perrone first. Should Connecticut lower its income tax to be more competitive with other states?
One of the things that has hurt us, it depends on how you calculate effective tax rate versus, in New York State versus ours. Overall, one of the things that has hurt Connecticut is its inconsistency in its tax policy. My comment is that, in the land of steady habits, the only thing consistency is the inconsistency of our tax policy. And it's been, because it's been used to fill budget gaps. And what that does is that it sends a bad signal to businesses that you're putting your roots down on unstable ground. And when that happens, when that message gets around, it deters growth. So I think that we need to develop a competitive tax policy, be mindful of who we're competing with. And one of the areas that I'm proud to be a part of is something called the Economic Competitiveness Council, which is looking at trends in our economy, areas of growth, strengths in our economy where we can invest and put money towards. We were able to convince McKinsey to come in to do pro bono work, to do basically a baseline on our economy where our strengths and weaknesses are. And I think that we need to take the findings there. They basically said that we're doing a lot of things right. They said we can be improving in other areas. And I think that we need to, it's the first time with this committee that we've had real, telemetry coming into us so we can make smarter decisions, vis-a-vis tax policy. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Perkins?
I'm afraid what we need is a real economic plan within the state, which we currently lack. That would be where we start. And also, yes, I believe we do need to lower our taxes, because when we do lower our taxes, it will allow businesses to start hiring again, creating jobs, and expand. And I truly believe in this, what I'm saying here, because guess what? Not too long ago, I went to meet with a business owner not too far, and he told me that, you know what, Darlene, I have not hired any new employees because, the regulations are too high, the mandates are too much, and the taxes are too high. And with a high tax, new businesses are not starting up, and current business owners are not able to create new jobs. And that's what's creating this new problem within our state, and we have to really face it. We have to stop raising taxes and start spending our money where we need to spend it.
Any rebuttal?
Yeah, basically, I think that we need to build on our strengths, and that includes retaining talent. I think it also means that again, something that we discussed earlier, which is tax policy and doing away with regulation. I get out and talk to small businesses, and frankly, there is concern that what is coming down from the state of Connecticut in terms of regulation for this specific industry is unpredictable. Thank you.
Anything further?
And one last thing that I would like to add is that transparency. We need transparency within the state. And I will never stop echoing my voice and other people's voice to say that we need a transparency and a real economic growth within the state, which we currently lack.
Okay, thank you both. This question goes to Ms. Perkins first. Do you think the state of Connecticut has sufficient consumer protections? How could they be better?
That's a very interesting question about consumer protection. About consumer protection, well, you know what? Let's flip that question into job creation. Because you know what? Within a state where there are so little jobs being created, where we have already faced the two highest tax increase within our state, where my opponent here voted for, where he has already cut for within our education fund. And those are the things that first we need to answer to our communities and to the people that he represents. And about consumer protection, yes, we do need some kind of consumer protection. But the conversation will continue tonight about creating jobs, because you know what, that is one of the largest issues facing our state, the economy. We need to turn Connecticut first to be a business-friendly state where a job can be created, and that's where our economy will grow again.
Okay, Mr. Perot?
Thank you. Last year I voted against the budget when it became clear that the tax policy, the tax plan that was included in it would have devastated our economic growth. I think it would have impacted biopharma, bioscience, life science, aerospace, on and on, in areas that basically would have made us vulnerable to poaching from other states. Other states would have come after our companies, as they already do. The fact is, we are in the area of consumer protection. I think that cybersecurity is something that we need to be a lot more vigilant and mindful of. And one of the initiatives that we're working on in the Commerce Committee is to work with companies to make sure that they're getting the tools and education they need to make sure that they are protecting themselves from cyber threats. They get thousands of threats a day. Their server logs are incredible. The kind of attacks they're getting, and we are. In this digital age, we need to make sure that we're, doing all we can in this section.
Anything further?
Yes, and what I would like to add to that is that to add to it, the state of Connecticut needs to start investing in some serious trends, skill training jobs, so that way, and by the way, I attended the University of UB. It is known within the state to have one of the best engineering program. Why don't we start working and recruiting those talents that are graduating right here within our backyard, so that way we can start with the cyber threat that my opponent here.
Anything further, Mr. Brown?
Yeah, actually, we are investing in computer science and engineering programs at UConn. We're creating a lot more than we had. The fact is, companies, we're trying to attract companies to come here because of our talent. And we want that to be an asset that we're leveraging. So we agree on that. I mean, but we are making real strides towards that, and it's something we need to continue if we're going to be competitive with especially Massachusetts.
Okay, next question goes to Mr. Perone first. Ridership on the New Haven line has increased steadily for the last 5 years, an average of 5% each year. Why did we need the last 5% fare hike, and what will you do to stop continuous fare hikes on the line?
Yes, why do we need the last 5%? We are, we don't have enough sway, I think, on the Metro North board. I think that, but like a tax increase or anything else, people want to know what they're getting for their money. And I feel that the case hasn't been made to my satisfaction that we understand, what we're getting for that additional 5 cents. Doing away with the bar car, they're doing, it's been, I think it's frustrating for a lot of commuters, and so I'm not satisfied that I've heard an answer yet as to why we need to have this increase, and so I plan to, I'm going to continue to look into it and speak out if I'm not satisfied with it.
Ms. Perkins?
There is absolutely no reason why we need another 5% increase. We have not gotten any new rails. I'll share a personal experience right here down in South Norwalk. You can't even walk to the booth at the train station to be able to purchase a ticket because there's nobody there. That's one example. You can't even wake up on a snowy day to make your job on time because the trains are delayed all the time. That's another example. Why should we continue to give more when we get less? That's unacceptable. So I am highly against the 5% rate that we are getting effective December. And one thing that I did appreciate from my very good friend Gail is that she gathered other legislators who were like-minded like her, and they were going from station to station every morning collecting signatures. And I believe that was a great movement. And therefore, I will continue to repeat that I am highly against a 5% hike.
Okay, anything further?
No, nothing.
Anything further? All right, next question goes to Ms. Perpignan first. Connecticut has a citizens election program which gives money to candidates for state office. Should the citizens election program be continued as is, amended, or dropped?
That's where I will refer to the pathway to the budget that the House of Republicans presented, which they were never allowed within, which they were never allowed around the table for negotiation. The pathway to sustainability, which they had on that budget plan to drop it. That would be another way for the state to save money and not continue to raise taxes. So I would, if I am elected, or should I say when I am elected come November 8th, and I will also side with them on that pathway sustainability plan, which says that they would be okay to drop the citizen fund.
Mr. Perone.
I personally feel that the Citizens Election Fund has done a great deal to keep the influence of soft money and just money out of the system in general. There was a time where, I remember one time we were trying to take sugared soda out of vending machines in school, and you could not get from, you couldn't cross the hall in the state capitol. There were so many lobbyists being flown in from all over the country to fight this thing. And, the fact is, we knew when we passed it, we had to do better. And I think that the Citizens Election Fund, by and large, has been a benefit to the citizens, because what it does is it removes that what I call sort of the lobbyist barrier. I think that it makes it creates a better dialogue with citizens in our communities, and there's no the influence of money is really taken off the table. And you can tell because when we passed it, suddenly lobbyists were asking me to play golf because they're trying to look for anything to get an edge on over their competitors. But the fact is, we are a sum total of our choices, and our choices are informed by you, by reactions to you, our conversations with you, and if we can't have that, then I think that the choices or the decisions are weaker. And I think that's just a good program. I think it ought to stay.
I don't doubt that it is a great program. As a first-time participant, I have to tell you that it was a great experience. However, with a budget that's been closed with a $78 million deficit, I think if a cut needs to be made, instead of cutting education for our children, I think we would begin to cut there, because you know what? As citizen, the citizen doesn't have to pay for a campaign. We can raise our own campaign, and I do agree it is a great program. But the current financial state of state right now, if there is a cut that needs to be made, let it begin with the Citizen Fund.
Mr. Perrone, anything further?
Yeah, really quickly. Before I did this, I was in advertising. So I don't need $30,000 to run an ad campaign. I mean, if we have to make some adjustments, that's fine. But I really do feel and believe in the underlying principle of the program to take the influence of money out of the system. I think that DC needs to do it. They needed to do it 10 years ago. But I think that the other states, Maine and Arizona, that are also doing it, have also seen similar positive results. Thank you.
Okay. Next question goes to Mr. Perrone first. If elected or re-elected, what will you do for adults with special needs given the state's budget situation?
Well, this one hits close to home. My sister-in-law has Down syndrome. I'm reminded daily of her challenges, and as she ages, the challenges she faces. So I think that when I sit and talk to parents about this issue, about kids with special needs, and adults, frankly, because when they go into adulthood, the challenges only become greater, and it really comes down to priorities. It's like, I love economic development, talking about that kind of stuff, but there are other priorities too that are really important to our families, but critical to the needs of folks with challenges. So I'm going to do what I can to make sure that the funding is there.
When I am elected and when the Republicans gain the majority in the House, we will restore funding for the hospitals, and we will restore funding for the disabled. I've worked years with the disability population, and I cannot tell you how hurt I am to see that their funding were cut. I'll tell you what hurt me even more. About 3 weeks ago, not too far from here, there's a mother who has a disability child. Now she's worried about keeping her job. She's worried about making a choice. Should she keep her job to be able to stay at home to take care of her needy child? She has no answer for that because she needs both a job, and now her child is not able to join the programs that her child has been able for 6 years to go to on a daily basis. My heart is aching, and the disability population is in dire need of help. I would not vote to cut any funding for that population. I work for Abilis, a company headquartered right in Greenwich. And I know how they suffer with how employees have become the ones who care for these people. And the most part, they become the families to these people. And to know that in January, there will be over 600 of those employees who will be out of work, that is heartbreaking. To know that the disability population will not be able to get the funding they deserve, that is lack of leadership, and that is cold-hearted. And I cannot wait to win on November 8th so that I can go to Hartford and restore hospital funding and restore all the funding for the disability population.
Rebuttal, Mr. Perron?
Thank you. Yeah, I did fight to protect hospital funding that we were able to get, and I think that we are not certainly out of the woods with the funding for special needs. This is, again, this is something that hits everybody, either directly or indirectly, and you know, the story is not completely written yet. We're gonna, you know, there's a lot of fighting to do on this. Thank you.
Anything further, Ms. Birmingham?
Yeah, but you're already in the House, Chris. Why did you vote to cut? Answer that to your people. You represent them. And another thing, while I am a first-time runner for this position, you've been in office for 12 years. What frustrates me is that when I ask your constituents, do you know who your current representative is? Of course I do. Bob Duff. No, it's not Bob Duff. Do you know who your current representative? Oh, absolutely. Jim Himes. Answer to your people.
It's time. Next question goes to Ms. Perpian. It is, what is your position on the walk bridge replacement?
The walk bridge?
Walk bridge.
Well, you know what? This is both a state and a municipal issue. First, I would like to start by asking a question. As a first-time candidate, I've been to those meetings to hear about the plans, the project of this bridge. Where have you been, Chris? The people needed you there to ask you questions on how you want to represent them and your thoughts on this project. But you were nowhere to be found. And I was there asking questions myself. Where is my representative? But on the fixed bridge, you know what? I am in line with, I know there are 4 alternatives that's been presented, but I have to add to the record that while we look more into the alternatives that will serve both the city of Norwalk, I am concerned about the long-term impact that it will have within the community, how it will affect businesses. So I am open to bringing in new experts to explore more alternative, because I don't think that we should be so quick to settle for what is being offered currently.
Mr. Perron?
Thank you very much. The railroad line that we're talking about is basically the only artery between the rest of the United States and New England. So, you know, this, obviously there's a great interest in having this done. That said, I haven't been to every meeting, I've been to a lot of the meetings, but what I've done more importantly than anything else is work with the businesses that are being threatened by this. I think that they're being displaced, and my job is to support them and fight for their behalf, fight the DOT to make sure that they're not getting pushed around and they get, you know, treated the right way, either compensated or just given the level of service that they require. So there are meetings, continually. I've met with DOT officials up in Hartford. I think that some of the earlier designs were hideous. I think that some of them look like giant alligators. I mean, they're eyesores on the landscape. I think that if there's a way to do it where you have a smaller substructure where you don't have to have a lift bridge, I think that would be a benefit for our area. So you don't have this giant elevator bridge. I think that a lower profile would be the way to go, and maybe looking at a way to do this with making sure that working it out with the Coast Guard so we can do that.
Okay,
Chris, while I am happy that you've been meeting with business owners, but a lot of times we have business owners who conduct business here, but they do not live here. So what is, to me, that is most important is that we reach out and listen to our constituent who will be voting at Mary Hall, Tracy School, Marvin School. Those are the people that we need to sit and listen, because those are the people that you too represent. And of course, that I would, about the fixed bridge, if we do have to decide, it would have to be the
I'm sorry, that's time. Anything further, Mr. Brown?
Yeah, my number's in the phone book. They know I've gotten plenty of calls at home also. So if I have, I understand where they're coming from, and this is not over by any stretch. We are this is going to have a huge impact on this community, and we're really just getting started. So I plan to be at a lot more meetings and having and working with folks to make sure that we keep the impact as low as possible, but it is going to be a major undertaking. Thank you.
Okay, that's time on that one. This is going to be the last question before closing. It will go to Mr. Perrone first. How do you plan to pay for our crumbling infrastructure, and is the mileage tax a possible way to finance infrastructure repairs?
I think the mileage tax is one of the items on the table, and others tolls. I think that we are. It has to be a priority to deal with our infrastructure, because if we don't, we're actually we're losing out to other states that have made like Virginia and others that have made infrastructure a priority. But I haven't settled on a specific way to pay for it. But at the end of the day, I want a method of paying for it in a way where, as we're paying for it, that money is directed back into the development of infrastructure and not into the general fund, and not dispersed and is really focused on doing what it was intended to do in the first place.
Okay, Ms. Birkenhead.
How do you begin to measure a mileage tax? That's what I would like to know, and that is the first question that I will ask when I get to.
Good question.
That is exactly the first question that I will be more than happy to ask when I get to Hartford. And another issue. We created, I understand the Democrat came up with Keno. Another way for them, they claim that all these fundings from Keno would go towards education, which we have not seen go into education. To me, it's another gimmick from this over 30-year party ruling that's been in Hartford. They just need to collect more of our tax money and providing you with nothing. It's just another gimmick, and we will not get a mileage tax, because you know what? We, the people who will be voting on November 8th, should stand and say no to another mileage tax, because there will be no way to measure a mileage tax, no matter what experts want you to believe. It's just another gimmick and another way for Democrats in Hartford to get more of your money and to be spending more, because that has been their problem for years. That is why they are spending so much money. They had to increase you had to inherit 2 largest tax increase, and they're not doing anything more than spending more of your money. And this November, you will get a chance to say no. What's the definition to insanity again? Is by doing the same thing over and over. And you are not insane, the people who will be voting. The 30-year rule party up in Hartford are the ones who are insane, because they keep stealing your money over and time after time.
Sorry, time. Any rebuttal, Mr. Perrone?
Yeah, I haven't been there 30. I've been 12 up in.
But you've gained. You've joined them.
Excuse me. I didn't interrupt you. Thank you. Sorry. We're cool. Look, the deal is this. We are the largest tax increase that I recall in history was a $3 billion package that came out of the Finance Committee in 2009, and I voted against that because I thought it was a disaster. I thought it was just a cash grab. I think that what happened last year and the budget I voted against was a similar. It was going to have a similar deleterious effect on our economy. And
time. Sorry.
Continue later. Thank you.
Anything further,
Stop.
Anything further? Okay. At this point, then, we go to closing statements. Ms. Perpignan first, Mr. Perrone second.
Once again, I would like to thank the League of Women Voters, and I would like to thank you, Chris, and I would like to thank you. I would love nothing more to serve you within the state of Connecticut. I came here in the United States when I was just 12 years old. And I want to share with you tonight that I do not want to be part of this mass exodus that's been happening here. Or retirees are leaving, or a college graduate cannot make a living here and they're all moving out. I want to live here, but with you, if I get a chance to be elected this November, I will be part of the leadership that think passionately about you. I am a person, naturally, who has compassion for people. And that is one of the reasons why I'm running for state representative here to represent you. You have, many of you have been voting the same way. And I want you to know, I don't know which president you're going to vote for on November 8th. I'm not running for president. I'm running for state representative. But what I look for you to do, and I encourage you to do, is not to vote across, but is to look for the candidate who will echo your voices, your frustration. Listen, folks, it's not hard. I'm not here to give you statistics and data to scare you away. We can have a table talk conversation where you tell me, you know what, Darlene, it is hard. It's been said, over 30% of New Yorkers are living paycheck to paycheck, and I've heard those stories. And this year, you get a chance to change that. And it begins with voting Darlene, someone who will not vote for any record-breaking tax increase, someone who will not vote to cut your children's educational fund. And you have a choice, and please join me on November 8th by electing Darlene Perpignan for state representative.
Thank you. Mr. Perot.
Thank you very much. I'd like to thank certainly Darlene and the League for a great discussion. I think that we are, Connecticut is going through some changes. One of the biggest changes, as we've seen, is the decision, the recent court decision for ECS funding. This is something that is systematically underfunded most towns in Fairfield County for years, and this is something that has to be dealt with. I agree that school funding is got to be, fair funding has got to be a priority of ours. But you know, there are other things going on too. You know, the fact is, you know, our different sectors, you know, in innovation and finance and others are doing well. Our overall, the state's employment rate has been steadily declining. And the question is, what are we going to do about it? Are we going to, you know, do what we can to make sure that there is housing for recent graduates? What are we doing to keep the recent graduates here? What are we doing to help businesses grow? You know, and are we doing everything we can to keep ourselves competitive? These. When I talk to constituents, when I go door to door, when I get, you know, hear what they have to say, it's like they want to know what, you know, what we're going to do to make it through this. And I think that at the end of the day is we have to focus on our priorities, and our priorities are the things that are going to leverage our talent, our treasure, and the assets that we have. You look at North Carolina, you know, with Research Triangle. You look at Virginia. You look at other states that have really, you know, organized themselves and put themselves on a platform for growth and for success. We have to do the same thing, and I think that I see those components coming together, and I plan to work towards that. It's been the honor, frankly, honor of my life to do this job. I love serving Norwalk. I love serving you. And as you say, Representative, continue to do that. Thank you very much.
Thank you both.